Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we are back working on the 34.5 window. That is the little old lady car she called Beautiful. So we're waiting on some paint matching to go on for the paint that we're going to touch up on here. One of the next big things I like to do on try and get these cars is get them running so you can at least move them into the shop, but get them running and moving under normal process. So right now we have a nurse tank in the engine bay just so we could start it, move it in and out of the shop. I'd like to get the gas tank figured out so we can just put gas right in there and start it up and go like a normal car. Now this car has sat a very long time and I dread it on these 33.4s because the gas tank is hidden behind this rear valance and it is a major pain in the butt to get out. You guys may remember on the red 34, the Skelly 34, I had to fight to get that thing out of there and change the gas tank because that one was left with a full tank of gas and it was a total mess and rusted out. This tank underneath doesn't look too bad, but we're going to take a look down in the filler neck. I have a feeling it's probably going to have a lot of crap that's in there regardless. If it's been pretty much out of fuel, it probably still has a lot of crap in there. But what we're going to try and do in this video is, number one, see if I can get the drain plug broken free and get it drained of any fuel that is in there. When we went to actually start the car for one of the first times to crank it over, it actually pulled fuel through the fuel pump and spit old fuel out of the fuel pump. So that tells me that there is still fuel in this tank that is liquid. So we want to get that old fuel out of there. What I'm going to try and do for my step one is see if we can get a power washer in there and like knock all the extra crap out of there and get it kind of drained out. And then we will see if we can get this thing to put fuel in it and actually run through. We'll see. If it ends up being horrible partway through, we may switch this video around and it's going to turn into a gas tank replacement video. So we will see what happens, but we're going to try the path of least resistance first. All right, so anytime these cars sit, there's crap that ends up in the gas tank. You can see just right here in the edge of the neck, all that buildup of junk that is in there, and it smells absolutely horrible. I can't smell it on camera, but it might almost be coming through for anyone that's done this before. You can smell it, but trying to see. But you can see there is some liquid still down in there. It's kind of hard to see, but we're going to see if we can flush and vacuum and get all that crap out of there. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it definitely needs to be addressed. We can't just put fuel in this thing and start running it because it is not going to work. So there is a flathead screw or bolt that is underneath. That it's almost like a set screw that is in the bottom of the tank that if you can get that loose, that is the drain. And if we can get a pressure washer in there, we can try and jam up in there and pressure wash it and knock it out, get all that gunk out of there, maybe so we can put some fresh fuel in there and see if we can run it through. I don't know. That screw is sometimes a major pain in the butt and will just break off and it's just a nightmare. It's not a very good design, but we're gonna get underneath here, see what we can do. I'm gonna get my Eastwood screw buster out because that is probably the best tool for the job where we can actually hammer on it with the impact air chisel and also turn it at the same time. We just gotta turn the pressure down a little bit so we don't just knock the whole thing off.
Ooh, that was good.
Yes. Got it. Man. Whew, it's about ready to give up. I need a trade pan. I don't know if this is going to be anticlimactic. Well, that's a good sign that liquid is coming out. I'm actually thinking we might just pull this outside and I'll just start pressure washing. I think that's what we're going to do since it's still daylight out.
Ready? Yep.
Filming?
Yeah. Here, let me get it.
There's like rust. we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Whoa. You can see the chunks coming out.
That's good.
You can see like little big chunks just fall out. Oh. Not good stuff. All right, so we're actually going to take the gas tank out. We shined the light inside, so there's literally like handfuls of rust, and with the baffles, we're never going to get it out. So we're switching gears, going to pull the gas tank and replace it, like I probably should have done from the beginning, but I had good ideas in the beginning. Oh, you're able to turn it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I can always lay under it. I'm already filthy. There we go. Alright. We beat the first boss.
Alright.
See, there's one right here too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think my sedan had that. That's a new one to me too. Oh wait, do they go through there? You know what? Yeah, they do. I think you have to take out these fender bolts. It's starting to come back to me. I think it's 3 you gotta take out. The 4th one looks way up high. This is a little different than on a sedan, I think. Hard to say. Wow.
Is it coming down on it?
No, there's some pressure on this fender from probably getting banged up. Me taking the bolt off, it's popping and carrying on because it's probably got pressure on the fender somehow. It'll probably, what that usually means is one of these bolts will not line up when we go to put it back together. It had tension on it. Almost there. Okay, there's that. I think it kind of like slides down.
Yeah, you got the.
I was gonna see if we can separate that. There's mine.
There you go.
Actually, leave it on the card. Wow. Came out pretty nice. So you can see the original color. That's so odd. It must have been painted black first. Because there's the original color underneath of there.
Yeah.
So maybe they used a black primer, is what it was. That bar should come out now, because I think we have all the bolts out for it. It might just be a tight fit and wiggle out of the frame.
It's broken right there.
Oh yeah. Shoot, from her running into stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. There you go.
Yeah, that took the brunt of some damage. Luckily, we don't
You
really
good?
need. I forget. That's where I was wondering if it might be. Oh yeah, they were stealing out of the back of the seat there.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've seen that. Of course, it's over. You know, they're super hard to reach gas tank bolts that you don't want to be rusty because it's extremely difficult to get in there. Mouse mansion back here.
Perfect hiding spot.
I'll say.
Probably came up through the.
Well, they can come up through the frame rail here.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah, they
kind
have
of
a real-
backed up against.
Yeah, they're
Panel.
safe against that back panel. So there's that bolt there with a spring on it. Does yours have a spring on it? No. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't have the cotter pin in it. Oh, that would have been. There was one at some
Yeah,
point.
there's a hole there.
Oh, it looks like it was a piece of wire.
It rusted out.
I don't know. Whatever it is, I got lucky because that would have been a nightmare. We'll have to take all the sender wires out, but take that guy off. Feels like we're free. Here we are. All right, rear panel. Come out. We don't think that's ever been out. Now we can sweep all the goodies back there. Just dirt, mud. Oh, there's actually a drain right there. Oh, that's probably where the gutter drain goes down right in there.
On the inside, yeah.
Ah. And they rot out because the gutter drain gets clogged up behind the hidden panel.
Yeah. Alright, well, we got screws under here.
That's probably where that little hidden panel is. Guy that put it together was left-handed probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's got a hook or something. Secret access panel! Crowd applause, everybody go nuts. Woo! There it is. Take those two lines off. See how you can never, to get to those with a wrench?
You can't get
On
in
my
there.
sedan, I did it. I pulled the tank half out and I got my hand up. It was like,
Ugh.
all right, so this little access panel was hard to see in the other shots, but this is what we took out here, and that allows you to get to the fuel sender, the fuel gauge, level gauge, has a little line here, a hard line, and then also the fuel feed is here. So we got those two lines off, and we can kind of just push them in front of the tank here, and then we could start pulling the tank out. But if you're doing a fuel tank in one of these, I did the Skelly car without taking this out, and it was a major pain in the butt, and then I realized that there was a panel there, so made it way easier. So now we should be able to just slide this out, just in quotations. It'll probably get stuck.
No?
No? No? Oh my gosh. Oh, there we go.
That was easy.
Swayze. Cool. I should probably change that shock while I'm at it too, because you can actually get to it if that's what's wrong. Sweet. Oh, that's awesome. Man, I'll be driving this thing this weekend. All right, so the other day we got Mike and I worked on getting the gas tank all buttoned back up. I had to get in the trunk and tighten those fittings up, and it was a little bit of a pain, but we got everything back in. I got the cover on, the brace. I ended up welding up the brace in that one shot you saw where it was split. So everything seems good there. The bolts all lined up, and it didn't fight us too much. So now that we're at the front end of the car, what we need to do is start working on getting some of the stuff replaced that is not good in the front end of the fuel system. So number one, there has this flex line. So we have to address this wiring here really soon, obviously. But there is a flex line that goes from the hard line here over to the fuel pump, and that is aged and cracked and dry, and it wasn't leaking when it puked a little fuel out, but still we want to replace it. So I have a reproduction one here, so we'll replace that. That's easy to do. One thing to note is this car actually, I think they were having problems with the fuel tank having sediment and clogging up the carb at some point in its life, because this carb, when we first got the car, had a inline fuel filter right here, and they also had swapped it from the original style filter, which is like this, or I'm sorry, pump, which had no provision for a filter in it, to this later style that actually has the glass bowl here, and even though it's black and has varnish and everything in it, inside of that there is a filter, and it catches the solids from gravity going in there, and so they would probably replace that fuel filter for that reason as well. So we're going to leave that filter on because it does help us by getting some of the rust that may still be in the line. The tank we put in is an original tank, and even though it was super clean, it did have a little bit of rust particles in it, nothing major that, even though we shook it out and blew it out, there might be a little in there. So I'm going to forego putting an original style pump on and leave this style on. This pump actually we think is working okay because it was pumping fuel out of the line when we first started to try to crank this car over, so we know that is working. So I'm going to leave that alone, but I am going to take the glass bowl off, clean all that out, make sure the screen that should be in there is good and clean. I went and bought just a cheap plastic inline filter. That's what was right here at the tank, or I'm sorry, at the carb. And there's this hard line that they had just basically cut off and had a rubber hose. So we're gonna do the same thing, leave it kind of how it was to try and catch any crap that's in the lines and all that stuff, and will save us from constantly getting the needle and seat stuck with dirt that's gonna get lodged in there. So I'm gonna start taking some of this apart and hopefully get some gas in this thing and fire it up with the gas tank and get it to run its own with the gas tank here real soon. All right, so we got the fuel line off, and these glass bowls here, this is supposed to be clear that you can actually see the fuel. And I like these fuel pumps the best myself because they have this filter built in. It is kind of like another way you can filter, save yourself from clogging the carb. But on this, there's a little wing, like little nut on the bottom, and sometimes they are very tight if it's been sitting like this. It's supposed to be able to loosen it by hand, but not happening. So what we can do is actually pry it out. It's probably just needs some spray, and since I can't really get in there, this little wire here is just in two little holes in the fuel pump, so you can just pull them out and we can get to it a little easier on the bench rather than trying to get a wrench in there with that glass bowl and breaking something. So you can relieve the pressure, and then you can tighten it down, or loosen it rather down. And now it spins, so it's just a quick, easy way to take care of that. So spin that out of the way, and then there's supposed to be like a cork or rubber gasket against the bowl. Oh, wow. So this thing was pumping fuel, which is really hard to believe because this bowl was totally full, just telling me that it was pumping that old gas out of there. So I have to carefully, without stinking up the whole shop, get this out of here. It's like that game of Operation when you're a kid. There you go. We'll take this right outside. Make my door handles smell like old gas. You guys can see, look at that, it's like black. That's definitely not good fuel. So I'll get this dumped out and cleaned out, and then we'll take a look at what the fuel pump looks like next. So you can see we just dumped this glass bowl out. That's basically what the bottom of the gas tank looked like. It was like a 1-inch thick layer of sludge, and that's what the bottom of this has in it. So that's why we decided just to pull that tank. But luckily this glass bowl, I can just clean it out and brake clean it and everything, and we should be able to get it clean enough that should work just fine. But that's what was all in that gas tank, but I couldn't believe it was still pumping fuel through there. So I'll get this cleaned up. First time putting gas in her.
Yeah, make sure it's in neutral.
Ignition
I don't
switch
need a
on.
crush change.
And see that little button between the pedals?
Here?
Yeah, that's the starter switch.
Okay.
So go ahead. Go ahead again. Let's see if it'll pull fuel. Come on. Come on. Carb ran out of fuel.
Turned over, nice.
Yeah, it starts real easy. It's just we put a fuel tank in it, so I'm trying to get it to pull. All right, so push that little switch to the off. Either push or pull. There you go. Okay. I think it just started to pull fuel.
There is a fuel gauge.
Yeah, there is. All right.
I'm gonna pro with a boom.
We're getting there. Maybe it's pulling some crappy fuel. Had to choke it a lot more than I thought. Good. Success. Sweet.
Nothing else sounds like a flathead.
I know. It's quiet. It quieted up. You know, I can't believe how quiet the engine is in this thing after we got it going. All right, so after getting that initial startup, when I had a couple people over and Kate gave us a hand, I was able to get the car all cleaned up and the engine bay closed back up. And I took the car out and drove around the property a little bit, and everything worked out good. Shut it off, started again. Seems pretty good. So what I'm going to do is keep an eye on the fuel filter, both of the fuel filters, and probably have to check and clean them quite often, or replace that, the replaceable one, because I'm sure that there is some crap that's in the actual line itself that's going to keep showing itself. As long as we can keep it out of the carburetor, we should be okay. So really happy that we were able to get that job done. And after doing the first gas tank in the 34 in the Skelly car, I was really dreading this car, but it actually went pretty decent, so I'm pretty happy about that. So after I drove around the property a little bit, I swapped some cars around, and I threw the 5-window here, beautiful, on the lift, and I need to tackle some jobs on this thing before we actually drive it, do our another kind of small victory, and drive it like to the gas station for its first trip, if you'll call it that, which is only really like a mile round trip, but that's what we're hoping to do. So we need to get on the lift, do a couple more things on this just to get it so it's not like dripping oil everywhere, and check the brakes over and the bearings and some of that stuff, and then we can just take it down the road and put some fuel in it, fill the gas tank up some more, and we are moving along pretty good. So that was kind of like my big goal before the winter hits here was to get this car so it's self-sufficient, so you can leave gas in the gas tank, we can turn the key, we can start it and move it around without any problem, because it's always packed in here in the winter, and we sometimes need to start cars up and move them around, and when they do not move and it's cold and pushing them outside, it's always a nightmare. So I'm really happy we got it this far, and fingers crossed we can get this thing far enough that we can take you guys along for a drive around my little town here, fill it up with some gas, and hopefully make it back home without breaking down. So we'll see what happens. So thank you guys for following along. I really appreciate it. It's been really fun bringing this car back from the dead. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.